So our lesson for today is all about philosopher. And this philosopher that I will introduce to you is one of the great thinkers. And he is also considered to be the most important virtue ethicist. And his name was Aristotle. Aristotle theory is called virtue theory. And this theory is about character. Rather than saying follow these rules so that you can be a good person. Aristotle and other theories reason that if we can just focus on being a good people, the right actions will follow effortlessly. And to become a good person, and you will do good things and no rule books needed. So why you should be a virtuous person? Think about it. Because eudaimonia. Virtue theory reflects the ancient assumption that humans have a fixed nature, an essence, and that the way we flourish is by adhering to that nature. Aristotle described these terms of what he called proper functioning. Everything has a function, and the thing is good to the extent that it fulfills its functions, and that bad to the extent that it doesn't. This is easy to see in objects created by humans. A function of a knife is to cut, so a dull knife is a bad knife. And a function of a flower is to grow and reproduce, so a flower that doesn't do that is just bad at being a flower. At the same goes from humans. We are animals, so all the stuff that would indicate proper functioning for an animal holds true for us as well. We need to grow unhealthy and fertile, but we're also the rational animal and a social animal. So our function also involves using reason and getting along with our packs. According to Aristotle, having virtue is doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, in the right amount towards the right people. He said, there's no need to be specific because if you are virtuous, you know what to do all the time. You know how to handle yourself and how to get along with others. You have good judgment. You know how to read a room. And you know what is right and when.
Aristotle understands virtue as a set of robust character traits that, once developed, will lead to productively good behavior. You can take of virtue as the midpoint between two extremes, which Aristotle called vices. Virtue is the right amount, sweet spot between the extreme of excess and extreme of deficiency, and this sweet spot is known as the golden mean. So let us take a look at some particular virtues, starting with courage. So what is courage? Like for example, walking home from a movie, you see a person being mugged. What is the courageous action for you to take? Your impulse might be to say that a courageous person would run over there and stop the mugging because courage means putting yourself in harm's way for a good cause, right? Well, no. A virtuous person in the Aristotelian sense would first take stock of the situation. If you size up the mugger and have a good reason to believe that you could safely intervene, then that's probably the courageous choice. But if you assess the situation and recognize that the intervention is likely to mean that both you and the victim will be in danger, the courageous choice is not to intervene but to call for help instead. According to Aristotle, courage is the midpoint between the extremes of cowardice and recklessness. Cowardice is the deficiency of courage, while recklessness is an excess of courage, and both are bad. Aristotle said that you definitely can have too much of a good thing, so being courageous doesn't mean rushing headline into danger. This person will assess the situation, they know their own abilities, and they'll take action that is right in the particular situation. Part of having courage is being able to recognize when, rather than stepping in, you need to find an authority who can handle a situation that's too big for you to tackle alone. Courage is finding the right way to act. A lot of time, but not all the time, that means doing a thing that you know you're capable of, even if doing it scares the pants off you.
Aristotle thought all virtue works like this. The right action will always be a midpoint between extremes. So now you can see why Aristotle's definition of virtue was totally vague, where that golden mean is depends on the situation. But if you have to figure out what virtue is in every situation, how can you possibly ever learn to be virtuous? Aristotle thought there was a lot you could learn from books, but how to be a good person was not one of them.
Which is a skill, a way of living, and that's something that can only really be learned through experience. Which is a kind of knowledge that you call practical wisdom. You might think of it as a kind of like street smarts. And the thing about street smarts is that you will learn about streets. But your good news is you don't have to do it alone. Aristotle said your character is developed through habituation. If you do a virtuous thing over and over again, eventually it will become part of your character. The way you know what the right thing to do it is the first place is by finding someone who already knows and emulating them. These people who are already possess virtue are moral exemplars. According to this theory, we are built with ability, so you learn virtue by watching it and then doing it. The beginning it will be hard and maybe it will feel fake because you are just copying someone who is better than you at being a good person.
But over time, these actions will become an ingrained part of your character, and eventually it becomes robust trait that Aristotle was talking about. It will just manifest every time you need it. That's when you know you have virtue. Fully realize it becomes effortless. What is your motivation? What if you have no desire to be the guy who always says the right thing or the lady who always finds the courage when it is needed? Virtue says that you should virtuous. If you are, then you can attain the pinnacle of humanity. It allows you to achieve what is known eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia doesn't have a simple English translation. A life well lived, as translated, human flourishing. A life of eudaimonia is a life of striving. It's a life of pushing yourself to your limits and finding success. A eudaimonistic life will be full of happiness that comes from achieving something really difficult rather than just having it handed to you.
But choosing to live a eudaimonistic life means that you are never done improving. You are never to a point where you can just coast. You are constantly seeking new goals and working to develop new methods. Choosing to live this life in this way also means you will face disappointments and failures. Eudaimonia is the satisfaction of knowing you have accomplished a lot and you have pushed yourself to the very best person you could be. This is morality for Aristotle. It is being the best you can personally be, honing your strengths while working on your weakness. And for Aristotle, the person who lives like this is the person who will do good. And that's the end of our discussion. I hope you have learned something from this lesson. Thank you.